Yes, I believe internet has been a definitive tool for women's empowerment in this century. Over to Ekta Kapoor.
Thank you so much, Jyoti Lakshmi, for that introduction. And as I promised, I will start my talk with my own personal experience with the internet. And this goes back to the turn of the century in around 2000, 2001, when the internet first came to India. Um, at that time, I happened to be in a pretty bad place. I had been married at the age of 20, and I was a homemaker. I lived in a society where I wasn't women weren't expected to work, and they were bound in the home. Their only job was as a homemaker, and but I was a writer, and even in my college days, I used to be one of the I used to be in the writing teams, and I was the editor of the college magazine. So there was always this this spark in me to write, but I stopped writing. So for 8 years after marriage, I completely stopped writing, and I just shut all those aspects of me and went into a shell, and tried to fit into the society that I had been married into. And that was when the internet happened to me, and I found this. I quickly took to the internet. I have somehow technology has been something I've been very easy with, and I started writing online. I started writing a blog, and it was like my alter ego. So I had it was completely my personality online was totally different from my personality in real life, when I was very docile and quiet. But on my blog, I was very opinionated, and I had a lot of views on a lot of things. But it was anonymous, so I felt safe, and I felt that nobody knew that was me. My family didn't know what I was doing, and that kind of really gave me a kind of an opening inside myself, that I am capable of these kind of thoughts. I didn't even before that, I didn't even think that I was I could have had independent thoughts of my own. But then I realized I have opinions on things. I can write, and I even started writing poetry. I started putting my poetry on some poetry website that had come up in those days. And so one thing led to the other. And I was noticed by somebody on the poetry website, who asked me to help that website compile books of poetry. So I did 5 such books as a voluntary, as an assignment that I could just do sitting at home online. So that was like my first freelance assignment that I had. And then that led to another job when Penguin Books offered me a job. So that was my first full-time job, and I was by the time I was already 30 years old. And I went to an office for the first time in my life, and I sat on a table, and I had my own computer. And for me, that was a hugely liberating experience, because I realized that this is one space where what I have in me, my writing or my editing skills, this isn't something that has it's nothing to do with my dad or my husband. This is something that's purely mine. So this was for me, that was the moment when a lot of things changed and opened up in my life. My first job, and then I encountered Buddhism, and then a lot of other things happened. But the point is, it all began with the internet. And if there was no internet at that point, I would still be a homemaker, and I would still be in the four walls of my home, imprisoned, or I don't know where I would be at this point. But it really opened up a lot of things for me personally, as well, because I later on left that marriage. I stood on my own 2 feet. I got a better job. I, started, expanding my wings. I started traveling, and then I also met my partner, my current husband. I also met him online. So it changed so many things for me personally, professionally, in all ways. And I think that is something that Indian parents are actually afraid of. That their girls, their wives, their sisters will develop wings. The internet gives you wings as a woman who is otherwise expected to be bound in the house and imprisoned in the four walls of the house. And one of my jobs where I worked, from 2014 to 2016, I worked with one of India's largest Hindi media organizations. And I was hired by them because they only had 10% female viewership. And I was coming from a background of English fashion media. So they asked me to start a fashion website for them with the hope that that would bring in more women readers onto the platform. So a lot of things, I noticed a lot of things in that job. I'm going to share some of my learnings with you. One of the things that we noticed was that women were accessing the internet through their smartphones, whereas the male readers were accessing it through their laptops or desktops. That itself said a lot to me in terms of how, our first of all, the women readership was so little, and they were only able to access the internet through the phone. So of course, as a content provider, I had to figure out how to make my content more readable on the phone. And those were the early days of social media and the internet, and people were still adapting to that whole space. So we were part of that development where everybody was kind of working in the dark, and we really don't know where we're going from here. But there were a few trends that we could see. One of them was that women made up only 30% of internet users then, and now I believe it's supposed to be growing, and they said that it would probably hit 40% this year, but there are no new statistics yet, but at that time it was 30%. And 22% of Facebook users in India today are women. In 2019, that was the number, 22%. And that is so weird because, uh, if there are 30% women on the internet, why are there only 22% of them on Facebook? So these kind of statistics made us wonder about the usage, the habits of women online. And then I also started noticing a few more disturbing things because I was working in a Hindi media organization and I could read the language. Uh, I started noticing how misogynistic the headlines were and what kind of content they kept putting out. And some of that really made me really angry. So I'm just going to share like a couple of examples with you. So that particular Hindi newspaper, it had a Facebook page. At that time, they had 9 million followers, and today they have 14 million. And one of the headlines was, and I took a screenshot and I kept this: 8 instances when Jwala Gutta had to feel ashamed after wearing revealing dresses. Now, if you know, Jwala Gutta is one of India's top ranked badminton players. And obviously, when she's playing on the court, she's wearing a mini skirt or she's bending or she's doing something, right? And they've taken those pictures and they're saying that she had to be ashamed after wearing revealing dresses. So that's her outfit, that's her profession. Another English website, which had at that time 2 million followers on Facebook, they had this headline: embarrassing photos of Sania Mirza that was spread like wildfire on internet. And you all know who Sania Mirza is. And again, the pictures are just her doing her job. She's just, wearing a t-shirt, wearing the tennis skirt, and she's on the court. And that particular story got 3 million page views. I know because I'm an insider in the organization. And the journalist who wrote that story in quotes, got a cash reward for getting the top story of the month. And and I realized that if we're going to incentivize these kind of stories, what is the direction? Like, obviously, it's going to put women off. No wonder they have only 10% female audience, because you have these kind of headlines, you have this kind of content. There was a story on a star who had turned 40 and they were wishing her happy birthday. And the headline said, "Happy birthday to so and so. Here's why she's still single." So that was the headline in Hindi, of course. And so it was things like this that used to make me really angry. And I used to wonder, like, why am I here? Like, is this what I want to do with my life? But what kept me going was that the job really exposed me to tier 2 and tier 3 cities, because I'm somebody who's brought up who's always lived in big cities. So I wasn't really exposed to that audience. So I got this opportunity to go there to give talks in colleges and girls' colleges and fashion colleges. I used to talk about my website, but I also used to take a lot of feedback from the students. I used to ask them a lot of questions. Um, so one of the things that I learned while talking to these young girls from these small towns was that they didn't have the freedom to wear what they wanted to wear, because my website was about fashion. They wanted to talk to me about clothes, and they were like, why are you giving us fashion advice when we aren't even allowed to wear what we want to wear? We have to wear salwar kameez and we want to wear jeans. So for them, jeans was like the ultimate liberation, but their society didn't allow them to do that. In fact, when I went to Jaipur, I noticed that everybody had their heads covered, and heads and even faces covered. So I asked my cab driver, okay, why are they all covering their faces? And he said, unki kismat phuti hai, means their fate, their kismat is bad. And I found that to be like a really weird answer. Like, that is their kismat phuti because they're women, or what are they doing that for? And then I asked one of them, I said, why do you cover your face when you come to college and things? One of them said, oh, it's because it's my hair, it flies in the bike. And then another one said, it's to protect us from the sun, because girls shouldn't be dark, they shouldn't be tanned. And then another one, they all had these kind of reasons. But then I asked the psychology professor in the college, and she had a different reason altogether. She said that's because most of these girls, they get anonymity by covering their face, and then they can do what they want to do, including sitting on a bike with a boy, because they know that they won't be recognized. And I said, okay, this is another reason. So all kinds of I got all this insight into these young women's minds. So besides the clothes, they also had this desire to use the internet to network. So they would always ask me, can we add you on Facebook? And this is like 5 years, 6 years ago. And I used to find that as such a funny question. Like, why do you want to add me on Facebook? Like, I'm not your friend. But I realized that for them in a small town, to be connected to an editor in a big city, it was like networking. It was like reaching out to somebody and getting into a bigger network in a bigger city. So that was another thing, that for them, the internet was a way to access a bigger network and get possible job opportunities. And then the third thing I noticed is that they were using the internet to find love, to meet partners of their choice. And they would talk about, that they don't have, obviously in most of India, women don't have a choice of partner, and they have to marry whoever the family chooses for them. So this was another thing that they were using the internet for. So I just absorbed all these things, and I left that organization eventually, because I kind of got very tired of doing what I was doing there, and I wanted to do something more meaningful, which is when I started Ishi. And I do hope at some point to take it into different languages as well. I don't have the bandwidth right now, but because language and the internet is growing much at a faster pace in Hindi and in other languages, Hindi, Tamil, and Malayalam, and many other languages. So that was the trend even then, and it's the trend now. Google is investing a lot of money on searchability in regional languages in India. So that is going to be the trend moving forward, and I will want to look at that. I definitely have my eyes on that as well. But in any case, when I started Ishi, these are some of the learnings that I took with me. So I want to share with you a few ways that the internet is empowering women. Like I said, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, before it was banned, these social media platforms have actually given these small town girls and even villages a huge liberating space. Last month I interviewed this girl called Millie Sarkar. She went viral on some other platform, Twitter, because of a video that she had put up on Instagram of her doing backflips in a sari. And she lives in a small village in Bengal. She can barely speak Hindi, forget English, but she knows just about enough English to get by. Like, she just knows the basic social media terminology. And she's figured out, even at this young age of 19, even she's just passed out from 12th, but she's figured out how to use the internet. She's a digital native, she's of that generation. And it doesn't matter whether you're in a village or you're in Hong Kong or you're in Switzerland, these kids have it in their hands, they have it, their brains are wired like that. So she was first on another platform where she had about 7 lakh followers. Then she had an account on TikTok where she had another 7 lakh followers, because her friends were moving to TikTok. And then when TikTok was shut down, she moved to Instagram, where she only, has only a few thousands of followers, and she's very disappointed about it. But what she told me about the TikTok experience was that she was actually earning money through that, because video producers would hire her to create these viral videos of her doing backflips, because she was a kind of a gymnast. and very flexible young woman. So they would hire her to do these flips, and with that money, she got herself a new phone with better video, better camera, and she got herself nice clothes so she could do videos. And so through TikTok, through Instagram, this girl has completely changed her life, her family's life. She was the earning member in the family, and it was so fascinating to speak to her because she's talking in Hindi, but she understands. She literally had to travel 6 hours by bus to Siliguri for dance classes on the weekend, and then she would stay there for 2 nights or one night and then come back. That's the kind of hardship she has to go through, but she's willing to do it because she thinks that this is the future, and she thinks her internet videos are her future, and she's hoping that she'll be noticed and she'll get a break in Bollywood or something. So this is really a huge platform. And talking to her, I realized, wow, I mean, this is what the internet is doing. And it's not just her, it's her family, it's her neighborhood, it's her friends. They're all affected by it because they all have a phone and they all can view it and they can see how her videos are spreading. So it's creating a ripple effect. It's creating this acceptance in the society that it's okay for girls to do this. It's okay for a girl to wear a small skirt and do backflips in the air because she's getting hits and she's getting money just from making that video. So it's creating all these it's creating social, economic, a whole lot of different kinds of empowerment for these girls. The other thing, of course, as I just mentioned, they're finding partners online. And you may know about these apps, Tinder and Bumble and Truly Madly. They've got almost millions of users now, and they're growing at 100, so many percentage, hundreds of percentage points every year. And because now they've realized that it's so difficult to get women on the platform, they've started making a women first policy. So only the woman can approach the man, like in Bumble. They started out like that. And I think now even Tinder offers it. I haven't used it, so I don't know from first hand experience. But I know a lot of people who have found their partners, and even not just partners, just good friends through Tinder. These kind of platforms have also been very, very liberating for women, especially because they wouldn't have access to these kind of things in their own life otherwise. And also it's making helping women band together, so you have these groups some of you might know about the Magic of Saris on Facebook. It's a huge group of women who just wear nice saris and they take their photos and they put up on that, and the other women will say, wow, you look so beautiful, and it's just a way for them to make friends, to find validation. There are people coming from small towns, big cities. It's that place where they all get together. There are singles groups, women who are single, who are widows or divorcees, they have their groups, and they really find a lot of validation and strength from these places. So it's helping them. There are also women entrepreneur networks where they give each other opportunities. They'll ask, I'm looking for a homemade soap maker, or I'm looking for somebody who makes these kind of decorative items. Can you suggest somebody? So they're networking through that. Again, that's something they wouldn't have access to if there was no internet. There are websites like Fusia and Sheroes that are actually networking platforms for young entrepreneurs and for people who want to be freelance entrepreneurs who want to offer their services from home. And again, small town girls are hugely empowered with these kind of platforms because they don't need to leave home to work. And that's another thing that COVID has done, is that it's actually strengthened these networks because these women are they were already there. So they have now got better opportunities working with each other. I interviewed this platform called Chaja, which is a new, it's an online content driven, it's a program which is developed for India by the NGO Girl Effect. It's a global NGO, it's a huge NGO. And when I was interviewing them, they shared a few findings with me. They had done a lot of research with girls in small towns. And one of the things that they found was that though boys were more likely to own mobile phones, girls were more likely to spend more hours, more time on the internet every time they got the phone in their hands. And, so they explained to me the mindset of these adolescent girls. So this platform is for adolescent girls. And they explained to me the mindset of these girls from these small towns of India, and how they would have to negotiate with their brothers or with their parents, to give me the phone for some time, I want to use it. And they would have these secret apps on it. Like there would be an app called Calculator, but actually it's a messaging app, and they would, have it password protected to, to chat with their boyfriends or something. They shared these kind of findings with me, and again, I found it so interesting. And this platform itself, this Chaja platform itself, it's designed for girls in the adolescent age group, and it creates 4 to 8 minute videos which they put up on all the platforms wherever the girls are, whether it's Snapchat or Instagram or TikTok. Of course, it's not there now, and so it educates them about things like how to negotiate with your parents about your education, because many of them, their parents don't let them study what they want to study. So they talk about those things, how to negotiate with your boyfriend who doesn't let you wear what you want to wear, you know, or how to, deal with, sexual issues, all about so many different topics that are so relevant to adolescents anywhere in the world, but more so in India, because they don't have anybody to tell them these things. And when you're living in a small town, your world is otherwise so limited, but it's through these kind of platforms, it's through these kind of internet platforms that these girls are getting a view into, a much bigger world out there that's unimaginable for them. But the amazing thing is that they're taking it to it so quickly. They're taking to it like fish in water, they're so natural at this whole internet. They just know how to use things. We don't have to teach them. They don't know English, but they know how to use the internet. They know how to use social media. So it's so amazing that this generation is going to be able to do that. And because of this, they're going to have a huge accessibility that our generation didn't have. And so there were a few points that I thought, if any of you are in a position to affect these kind of changes, there are a few suggestions that I have about increasing women's participation online. So one of them was that I went to this college in Bhopal. It was a girls' fashion college. And interestingly, they had free Wi-Fi in the college. And that was the biggest draw for these girls to first of all come to that college, because they could get free Wi-Fi while they were in the campus. And the second thing, for their parents to get them a mobile phone, because otherwise in families, it's always the boys in the family who are prioritized. But because they had a free Wi-Fi in the college, and it was password protected, the girls needed to have their own mobile phones. So that became a bargaining tool for them. So I think one thing is offering free Wi-Fi for girls everywhere in colleges and schools will be a huge incentive for them to come to school, and for their parents to buy their mobile phones. So that could be one possibility. The other was free or subsidized data for mobile phones if the connection is in the name of a woman. And this also has, for these women, it has the advantage, because in their families, it gives them a certain social status, because the phone is in their name. They have the password, or they have the possession of it. So it helps them in their personal, gives them empowerment in their home as well. And I think it will also help telecom companies, because since women are only 30% of the internet user base, if you increase the user base by offering them free internet, it's going to benefit everybody. You'll get more women users coming online, and then more advertisers coming online looking to please the women. And the other thing is incentivizing online education. Actually, COVID should have done this for us. It should have made us think about the education sector, and we should have completely turned it around this year. There have been a lot of internet based education portals that have come up. We featured them on Ishi. Um, Three of them are actually driven by young women who have created these amazing platforms where just for 1,000 rupees in a year, you get the entire syllabus of your class, 8th standard, 10th standard, you get the entire syllabus online. And one of them, they've tied up with a TV channel, so you can just watch it on your television, and you can, get your whole syllabus. So this should have really been the year of revolutionizing education in India and making online education more lucrative. If you do that, automatically girls are also going to come online, because that's where the studies are, that's where the teachers are. So they have to come online. And I want to give credit to Google, because they have this Internet Sathi. It's called Internet Sathi. It's helping women get online. So it's a project they started in 2015. Until now, they have reached out to women in 3 lakh villages in India. They're training these women how to use the internet. They've created, so it's a woman to woman teaching kind of. So these internet sathis go from village to village, and since they are also from that community, they know these families. so they don't feel threatened about having this woman come home and teach their daughters how to use the internet. And this year, because of the COVID, they also launched a program to empower women entrepreneurs from rural areas. So by teaching them how to make a website. So I believe 500, about 500 women, they helped them come online this year. So that was something that they did. And many other, such activities can be done if the corporate sector gets into it and makes it lucrative for women to come online. I'm sure that the government would also take notice, or if the other way around, if the government makes it compulsory for the corporate sector to incentivize this, I'm sure it will be a win-win situation for everybody. And um, a lot of what we observe now and we take for granted now, just imagine this was not there 20 years ago. So if we move at the same pace, I think in 20 years things will be completely different. And that's why I come back to the main point, that is why I believe the internet is going to be the tool of women's empowerment in this century. It's completely changed the way that women work, the way they interact, the way they find opportunities, the way they find partners. It's completely changed all that. And I hope it's going to grow in a better way. I hope media organizations wake up to the fact that if you're going to have all these misogynistic headlines and this ridiculous content, you're just, you're letting go of a huge chunk of women readership. You're not creating a safe space for them to come to your websites. So I hope I'm going to be part of that change with Ishi as well. And I'm going to change the way the people approach women readership and give them something that is empowering. And I think it is empowering not just for women, but for men as well. Why should men be forced to look at ridiculous content that disrespects women? And it's only going to create further misogyny in society. So to correct that social problem, I think media organizations will have to wake up as well. I hope I've not taken up too much time.
That was okay. You were on a flow, and nobody wanted to disturb the flow. It was really fantastic listening to you. But my first question, yeah, as you said, a society which does not respect its women doesn't last and doesn't survive, and it is not a society to be in. That said, when you said about the internet and how the girls and the ladies converse with each other, there are a lot of people who naughty men who come in with the proxies. The internet has absolutely no way of finding out whether it's a male or a female who's really tuned in into the thing. How do you propose that if that can be corrected or challenged?
I'll share something with you. 2 years ago, I had a lady visit my house. She's a 60-year-old woman from Sweden who got divorced after 28 years of marriage with grown up children who blamed her for everything. And she decided that, I don't want to live in Sweden anymore. She took a visa to India and she came to India. And for 2 years, she kept traveling all around India in buses and, staying in ashrams and whatever rent money she got from her house in Sweden, she had just that much budget and she just used it in India. And somehow I found her on the internet and we started chatting with each other. I asked her to write an article for my magazine. She did that. And then I invited her home and she came home one day when she was passing through Delhi because she used to keep passing through Delhi once in a while. She never stayed in one place. And while we were chatting, I told her that my daughter is taking the Uber to college and she has to spend extra money, but it's pretty expensive. So she said, tell her to take the shared option. Why shouldn't she take the shared option? And I said, we don't know what kind of people sit in the car, and this is my young daughter, and I don't want her to sit in the car with random men. And she said, Ekta, stopping women from sitting in the car is not the answer. Teach them how to deal with these random men. Teach them how to stand up for themselves and give it back. And it just kind of hit me like, a punch in my face that every time we tell women, cover up or sit at home or don't step out because there are predators out there, you are empowering the predator and you're disempowering the woman for no fault of hers. So the answer is not to stop the men, not to stop the women from going online, but to make them prepared how to deal with these stupid people and how to be tough and how not to back down. Because every time more women come online, the men automatically will back down when they realize that they're not going to be able to get away with that nonsense anymore. When media organizations realize that women readers are sending them messages and saying, "What rubbish are you putting out?" they will have to take a step back and change the headlines. So the answer is not cloistering the women, but rather unleashing the women and having more women step up into the internet and having the men behave themselves. And that's how you create an equal society. So that's what my lesson was from my friend in Sweden.
Yeah, we are open to questions. Dear Sadhas, you can put across questions. So do our visitors.
So next question is from me. I am Ranjit Aekta. Aekta, patriarchy has been the order from ancient times. It's some, and don't you think we have traveled a lot from those patriarchy days, and we are very come close to. We have come very close to equality. Close. I'm not saying we have maybe we are 30% away. I'm not putting a figure for that. But if you see in India, uh, see it is a very funny situation in India. We had a prime minister who was a lady. We have many ladies who have been chief ministers and things like that, and we have many ladies who have occupied senior professional positions. But if you take Europe, or if you take US, who's supposed to be very advanced, sorry Shell for making that comment. Um, it's very hard in the US for a lady to become a president. Okay, so I'm not just covering, trying to blame somebody, but what I feel is we have traveled a lot and we are in the right direction. And maybe our speed, we have to accelerate further. But when you accelerate, there could be repercussions. There will be throwbacks to it. So I'm very happy, if some of our people, including teachers, including Shamla ma'am, I don't know what she's going to comment on it, because for teachers, exposing children to internet is supposed to be very dangerous, because of multiple reasons. You can go onto a wrong website and things like that. Anyway, I just want your comment on the travel from patriarchy to equality. What is your feeling where we are?
I'll also quickly address your question about children. Whether we like it or not, Ranjit, they are going to go online, and we cannot cripple them by making them, not good at, restricting their internet. We have to actually make them experts. So we have to teach them how not to go on these websites. And I'm telling you, trust me, I watched the way my children use the internet. Now they are adults. My children are adults, but I've watched the way that they have used the internet, and sometimes they're smarter than we are. I mean, we may click on the wrong thing, but they don't click on the wrong thing. They know that this is a spam website, and they know that this is a stupid person. And even this young girl in the village, I asked her, "What do you do with trolls who make these stupid comments on your Instagram, and they say stupid things to you?" And she said, I don't bother about that. So they're a lot hardier and tougher than we think they are. I think we need to trust them. They're much smarter at this. It's natural to them. So let's trust our children. Instead of restricting their movement online, let's give them more education on how to protect themselves. And I think actually the way the thing's going, they're going to be educating us on how to protect ourselves. So I see a lot of young people actually telling their grandparents, "Don't click this, click that." So, I think when it comes to the internet, I think we should trust them more than we trust ourselves. And regarding patriarchy, and I also find this very interesting that in many ways India is doing better than even countries in the West. But for us, I think the biggest barrier for us is our caste system, and our social hierarchies that are supposed to be, we're supposed to be born with them, which is not there in the West. So the West is a more merit-based society. You can be from any community, unless, of course, in the US, the Black community has it worse than the others. But in most places, they have slightly better advantages in terms of equality than we do in India. And being a woman is still, as the Bandit Queen used to say, it's still the lowest caste of all. So there are a lot of barriers that we face due to our circumstances of our birth, which is something that angers me and it pains me that because I have a certain name or I have a certain heritage or I come from a certain family, I'm automatically given so many more privileges than somebody who would have a different name or who would have been born in the wrong place at the wrong time. And that's really not fair. That's not social justice. And unless we don't fix that problem, unless we don't make society more equitable for everybody to move forward, and I think that will only happen when people who have the voice, I'll be honest with you. Can I do an Indo-Pak peace summit if I have a Muslim name? How would you react to that? I'm a Hindu and I'm a so-called Savarna Hindu. I'm a woman from a relatively privileged English-speaking background. So I'm doing an Indo-Pak peace summit without having somebody barge into my door and kill me for it.
Right.
But would I have been able to do it if I was from some other kind of a
Surely
background?
no. Surely they will attribute all kinds of reasons.
Absolutely.
You will be called a spy.
Absolutely. And I can only do it because I'm using the privilege of my birth to, I'm using it for social justice reasons. But not everybody uses it. People would be happy to use their privilege and to sit back and not do anything about it and let the others suffer. So I think when we are talking about patriarchy, it harms everybody. It's not only harming the women, it's harming men, because there are so many sides of life that men are not able to access because it's not allowed, because certain things are not allowed to them. What about young men? What about men with fluid gender or sexual preferences? What about people with all their, everybody is losing out because of patriarchy. The young man has to give in to the older man in the house. Or so there are so many these structures that we have in our society which are very unfair, and we need to fix these problems. And feminism is only one way of doing it, but feminism is standing up for the fact that women are equal to men, and men are not going to make the space for women. Women will have to fight for it. Even Perrier said that women are going to have to fight for it. Otherwise, it's like asking. He made some reference to the prey and the hunter. The men are not going to give space to women because it's too much of a privilege. They're accustomed to that privilege. So it will have to be the women constantly raising their voice and saying, but this, I want this, I want this, I want this. Because a woman simply asking for what she wants is considered radical. But when more of us do it, then it will become normal. And then men will say, yeah, okay, so, she wants this, let's do this today. So we have to normalize that conversation that women are people too, and they have choices. They want to do something in a certain way. They want certain things to be structured in a certain way. I used to have big battles in the organization I used to work, that why is there only one woman's toilet and two men's toilet when it should be the other way around? Because women need more time and we need privacy and we have other needs. Why shouldn't our needs be considered? Why should we have to fit into the male way of doing things when our bodies are different? Why should the male body be the default? Why shouldn't we have a more inclusive society where both male and female bodies are taken into consideration? What about the people who have disabilities? What about the people who have to come to office on a wheelchair? Why don't we think about that? Like, why haven't we made space for those people? So patriarchy not only hurts women, it hurts a lot of different segments of society.
Yes.
So that's what we have to change.
Well, every man needs a woman, be it a wife or mother or a sister or a daughter. The same way every woman too needs a man, though maybe the degree differs. We can take one last question.
So we have a leader on women's empowerment here, Nina John, and we have Srimati Ramnath, who is an international leader in communication. Now, I think we should, Nina, do you have anything to say on this subject? And again, Mrs. Ramnath, you too.
I believe Srimati wanted to ask a question, yeah.
Yeah, Nina John. Yeah.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, loud and
Yes.
clear.
Yeah, sorry, my video is not quite working. No, I found it fascinating, and I'm like, this is exactly what we need. One, more access to the internet for all women, because it, as you said, exposes you to such a variety of ideas and cultures and communities from across the world, some of whom you would never have met. And networking for women is amazing because you get to meet interest groups of such diverse backgrounds, and you're like, nothing. It's not a question of age or background or whatever. It's just shared interest. Now, I'm a Toastmaster, and today I'm going to talk to a Toastmaster club in Italy, and I know our needs are exactly the same, and I know that women across the world have the same problems. You've got office, you've got work, you've got to balance everything, and you have to come back and say that, oh, who's got the breakfast ready? Who's looking after the kids? Well, I want to go for Toastmasters. I want to be a leader. Okay, but make breakfast, lunch, and dinner ready first. Make
Sorry
sure.
to interrupt. Can we have your question, please?
I was asked to give my views. I don't have a question. I just have a
Okay, all right.
comment on how beautifully Aekta has given her views. Thank you so much, Aekta.
Thank you for sharing your thoughts, Nina. Maybe we can take this forward later.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Mrs. Srimati, you wanted to ask something.
Yes, I thank you very much for inviting me. I just have a question. I'll make it as crisp as possible. I do a lot of work also in the area of diversity and inclusion. I think misogyny, patriarchy are the obvious villains everybody like to chase. But what about subtler, more nuanced things like women having low self-worth, or women being against women, because they have been indoctrinated to believe that they are inferior. They think what they like. I'm talking about mothers-in-law, how they raise their daughters. So that's the invisible villain in the war that you're waging. How do you address them, number one? And number two, you made a statement like, which tantamounts to, technology is a tool, like every tool, like an automobile or an atom bomb. It can be put to good use, it can be put to bad use. And, therefore, your children learn to navigate through the difficulties. But I was just having a visual in front of my eyes. I know, but before I teach my children to drive the car, if I tell them you drive, they may be able to successfully navigate, or it may result in some horrible accidents. So what kind of specific endeavors or initiatives that you are taking to address women, to first of all address at the grassroots, to improve their self-worth, to break this doctrine of you are inferior, so that they become the champions of your initiative? They don't need to fight men. They need to also, not just men, but they need to look at, within themselves.
Yeah, actually, this is something that's very, very close to my heart. And I've said it on other platforms as well, that the barriers women face are not external, they're equally internal. They're equally internal. Because we're conditioned to think that we come second. We're conditioned to think that we have a certain limitation around us, and breaking that mentally is, and that's why I give a lot of platform to women entrepreneurs, because, women entrepreneurs are only 14% of the entire entrepreneur population in India. And for them to even reach that point is such a huge, mental barrier that they have to break.
So I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I just am very curious to know if you run any programs to.
Yes. We have a program. It's called Shine Your Light. And the whole concept of Shine Your Light is to empower women to realize what their purpose and what their power and what their potential is. So we invite speakers of different categories. So we have the three parts of every Shine Your Light session. So that's movement, meditation, and motivation. So there will be a motivational speaker. There will be somebody who inspires you to go within your mind. So there will be some kind of a session. And there'll be a movement session, because I believe that your body needs to move. So movement can be a wonderful way of discovering yourself. So once we had a belly dancer, for instance, we have yoga teachers, we have pranayama instructors. So we've done different movement therapists. So we've done different kinds of workshops, which we had to put a halt to it due to the pandemic.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And the other small thing I notice is that technology, as it is such a great enabler, it also alienates and it kills empathy because it promotes self and, the focus is on the self, which is a good thing. But I also do a lot of work with culture, and ours is a collective culture. It's a package. The entire programming is based on the fact that you're raised to care for the others. You're raised to think about the others. Gender agnostic upbringing I'm talking about. But if you are, how do you balance, how do you try to balance the dangers of, lack of empathy and alienation the technology package brings with it?
Like you said, you can use a knife for cutting an apple or for killing somebody. So
absolutely,
it's the same way you can use the internet for creating empathy or for creating distance and isolation. So, I think the last 1 year, COVID has really changed the way we approach all these questions. And a lot of these things, now we don't have a choice. We have to get used to technology. We have to get used to meeting each other like this. Would I even be attending a Madras book club session if I hadn't, if it wasn't for technology? So it has connected us in amazing ways. And I'm a person who always likes to look for the positive. So I like to focus on the positive and make it grow so that it automatically takes away the energy and the power from the negative. So if we give people more and more options of how to use technology in positive ways and by connecting with people, I think automatically they'll not find it so interesting to use it in negative ways. They'll find much more incentive and much more power from coming on the positive platforms of it.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Well, thank you. May I invite Rotary Shamla Jayaprakash to propose a vote of thanks, please? The discussion can continue after the meeting is officially called off too.
Thank you.
Rotary Shamla, you'll have to unmute yourself, please.
Thank you, Aekta, for that passionate talk on, a very favorite subject of mine also. And I'm sure all the women here, they're also, relating themselves to all what you've said. And definitely internet has thrown open a whole world to all the women who are confined or forced to be confined, with all the potential, with all the innovations in their mind, and with all their efficiency, which they could not bring out. But this internet has, brought it all out. And for me, just like you, how excited you were when you talked about those women, the girls, the young girls who are in the villages and who could not have dreamt about reaching out to the world. That is exciting. Let's forget about the negative part. Let's think about that excitement that girl, the opportunity that girl gets, reaching out to the world with her innovations and potential, what she can become. The whole world is hers. So that's what I'm excited about. And I can see that you're excited about it also. And keep dreaming. Like one of our Rotarians said, you're a dreamer. Keep dreaming, but you translate your dreams into reality. Thank you. Thank you a lot. Thanks very much.
Thank you so much.
This meeting of the Rotary Club of Madras South is adjourned. The discussions can continue. I'll be logging out because I have another meeting to attend. The meetings can continue, and the chit chat can continue. And thank you for the wonderful evening, Mrs. Aekta Kapoor, and wish you all success.
Aekta, I have a question. You casually mentioned that you have taken to Buddhism. Can you a little more elaborate on it? Because it's a very interesting subject, because in a way, Buddhism doesn't believe in any God. The Buddhist doesn't believe even in a soul, if you read deep into. And it is, of course, the culmination of all the Vedas. I think it is, but it's totally, it's a different world all over, altogether. So can you just throw some light on what made you move to Buddhism, and how do you practice it?
I joined Nichiren Buddhism. This was in 2004.
Which Buddhism?
Nichiren Buddhism. I
What's
don't know how, you probably have a center in Chennai as well.
Okay.
Where are you based, Ranjit?
Chennai. We are
Yeah. So they probably have a center there. They have centers all over the world. We have about 2 lakh members from India. So it's called the Bharat Soka Gakai. It's an NGO. But essentially it takes forward the teachings of a monk called Nichiren, He lived in the 13th century, and he said that the Lotus Sutra, which was Gautam Buddha's last, the last sutra he wrote, he said that the Lotus Sutra is the correct one. And the difference that the Lotus Sutra had with the previous sutras was that this was the one in which he said that every single being, every single human being is capable of enlightenment, whether they are women or men, or whether they are low caste or high caste. He said every single, earlier he didn't say that because he felt his people were not ready to hear it. So he had, so the Hinayana sect of Buddhism came before that. But after the Lotus Sutra, it was the Mahayana sect. So it's a more egalitarian, democratic, philosophy. And the other thing, so you don't need a priest, you don't need anybody. You are capable of enlightenment as you are. Each person has a Buddha within them. So that is why it is a practice of compassion and kindness, because when you see the other person, you see a Buddha. You don't see an enemy. You don't see because each person, I remember initially when I joined the practice, I used to have questions like, does Osama bin Laden have a Buddha in him? So this philosophy says 100%, no exceptions. Everybody is capable of Buddhahood. They just don't know it. They haven't applied it. They haven't looked inside themselves, or they haven't found it. So when you reach that kind of an understanding, and when you really internalize this concept that everybody in my life is a Buddha, then there's no hate, then there's no blame, because you understand that whatever is happening to me is happening because I attracted it into my life because of my past karma. But at the same time, it empowers you that karma is not a negative word. Karma is not something. हम लोग, in English, in Hindi, we say, मेरा कर्म ही फूटा है, or I am destined to have this kind of bad karma in my life. But we see it in a very empowering way, because if your past karma has led to where you are now, then what does it say for your current karma? So what you're doing right now is what is important, because you can't, you don't know what's going to happen in the future, and you can't change what's happened in the past. But what you have right now is of paramount importance. So doing the correct actions in the present, creating the karma now, so that you have a better karma in the future. Also, the concept of the bodhisattva. So there is a story that the Buddha was given the ticket to nirvana, but he stopped at the door and he said, I will not go through until I take all of humanity with me. So he stood at the door and he let everybody go one by one. He was taking humanity. So that is what is a bodhisattva, a person who has been given the ticket to nirvana, but they come back and they are born in the Saha world, and they are born again with all the problems and all the all the bad stuff, all the good stuff, everything. They made to go through it, because their job is to lead others, and to inspire others and to take others along with them. So this is a concept that we are hearing all the time, because this practice is it's a very secular practice. Like you said, there's no God. It's a atheist philosophy. You only believe in the Buddhahood of yourself. You believe in your highest self, and there is a concept of a soul. There's a concept of a life condition that you take with you. So we are constantly aspiring to this is also not just in this Buddhism, but also in Tibetan Buddhism, the concept of dying well. So the mindset that you are when you die, that is the life condition that you're going to be born in the next time. So make each day count, because you see, we don't know when we're going to die, right? So make each day the most beautiful day of your life, so that if you die today, you can die with that feeling, wow, I had a great time. I did the best that I could. It couldn't have been any better than this, So imagine having that life condition every single day. That is what we aspire to. Of course, there are bad days and then there are good days. But on the whole, if you are following your life's purpose, and if you're doing what you think, or what actually you don't think, it comes from a place of knowing inside you that this is what I have to do. This is what I have been created for. This is what my life's experiences have led me to this point. When you can really start living your life based on that, then automatically, everything else becomes so different and so, the path just opens automatically. The resources come, the people come, everything starts moving in that direction. So for me, Buddhism has given me this, and it's made me a part of this amazing community. There is a certain practice involved. So the practice involves chanting. We chant Namyoho Renge Kyo. The practice, it also involves study. So we study from the history books. We study what Buddhism is all about, and it involves having meetings. So just like you're having regular meetings, which keeps you connected with each other. Similarly, we have regular meetings in which we motivate each other. Because of pandemic, all the meetings have moved online. So it's all, so you get a kind of a holistic growth. And this is something that I really wish everybody should find this kind of a spiritual practice. It may not be this one, it may be another one. There are hundreds of them, and I've really tried so many different ones that I wrote a book about it. It's called 100 Paths, because I tried so many spiritual philosophies, so many different paths, from pranic healing. And so I somehow stuck to Buddhism because it suits my personality, and it's very accessible for me. It's right in my neighborhood. We have the meetings here, and I've become very close to these people they're like my friends, my best friends. So it's kind of the easiest and the most accessible to me, but I encourage everybody to find some spiritual path or the other.
Thank you, ma'am. So thanks, and wish you all the best.
Thank you.
once
Thank
again.
you, Aekta.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank
It was a
you so
wonderful
much.
evening.
I'm so honored to be here today.
And wish your seminar terrific success.
Please do
Sure,
attend
sure,
it if you have the time.
Yeah,
Sure. Thank
Yeah. All the best.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.